Welcome to the Sedona Soul Sisters show, down-to-earth discussions on spirituality, metaphysics, paranormal, and healing topics. The Sedona Soul Sisters are the most trusted psychic mediums in Sedona, Arizona. We are Rosalind Reynolds, myself, Ivory Lanou, Melissa Brace, and Terri-ann Russell. We have offices in Sedona, Arizona, where we see clients from all over the world. Today's topic is the Pleiadians. We said that we were going to start doing this by popular demand. We were going to devote one show a month to different alien, would you call it species? And this is the first one. So on the first show of the month, we will be doing this. If you're into this, you'll know to tune in then. This is a topic that we have two ladies at our practice, Melissa and Terri-ann, who deal a lot with Starseed and things of this sort. So one of you, I'm going to let you talk about first, what are the Pleiadians? Don't jump in there. Don't knock each other over.
Well, I was driving into work this morning and I was excited about the subject because I was thinking this is the first I had ever heard of the Pleiadians were like in the late 90s. And then, learning from that point on. And it's really tough to, just like we can't go, hey, by the way, those people in that country, like we can't just lump everybody into one description. So I was just thinking about it this morning, but the Pleiadians are a race, if I may say it that way, or type of extraterrestrial being that, and the main thing in my knowledge, at least, that they're known for is seeding the universe, almost like weaving the fabric of the universe. And it's the Pleiadians are always known for loving, peaceful, joyous, harmony, good things. And so they're creators or weaving the fabric of our universe and the different beings in it. So that's the first part. That's the first description of the Pleiadians.
Aren't they from a cluster in space?
Mm-hmm.
Is it a cluster we've ever have pictures of, at least?
Mm-hmm. The Pleiades star system, I believe, I think it's Orion is down lower, and then if you look straight up into, I want to say the way I'm looking right now, the Pleiades star system would be over there. There's 7 stars. When I was reading up a lot about them, when I first started learning about starseeds, I think clearly visibly sometimes you can see 6 of the stars. The 7th star is not always visible to you, so you really have to look. And I have one of those cool apps on my phone, so when it's dark out in Sedona, I mean, it's so beautiful with all of our stars, you can actually hold the phone up and take a picture and it'll bring up the constellation that's there.
When I was putting together the marketing for Facebook for this episode, I looked up a lot of things about the Pleiadians. So that's my extent of my knowledge. But one thing that really stood out is for many years, everybody said, oh, they're Nordic looking. They have white blonde hair. They're tall and thin and blue eyes. And now people are saying, no, that's not true or not always true. So what's your thinking on that?
I've seen them. True. I think that they look vastly different than just one type, like one skin tone or one hairstyle or one. They are us. They look like us when in Earth form. So I think they look tall, short, thick, thin, pale, not so pale. All different kinds of beings can be Pleiadian. I think we all humans have in our junk DNA that we're figuring out, right? Have some Pleiadian DNA.
So does that mean that they are the roots of our race?
I believe so. I believe from what they've told me and what I've seen is that, like Melissa said earlier, they were seeding humanity. So seeding, splicing the DNA. They've shown me a lot of that, integrating their DNA together. So very way off distant cousins, maybe, if you want to think about it like that. But reseeding humanity, very distant. They're actually not as far as some people would think, though. I did read something the other day. I thought, It's not far, like millions of light years away. It's a little bit closer than we would think. But
Go ahead.
But I was going to say, for me, a lot of times, so I'm not as clairvoyant. So a lot of times when their energy will come into my space, it sometimes look like a bluish tinge though. So it's like a white, like a platinum and a very blue in there. So to me, that's how I see them.
Well, how do you think it started? Like, were people so universally like, oh, they're the Nordic alien people? Where'd that come from?
Oh, I think in the beginning of disclosure or having humanity learn to reintegrate the idea of extraterrestrial connections or cousins coming in, I think our minds needed to see something. And so some of the beings that were presenting themselves to humans and saying, hey, by the way, we're your cousins. We're not scary. We're visiting and, we're connecting. I think it started with the Nordic tall, what we could have like white hair, light hair, tall beings.
Some ambassadors from the Pleiadian people.
Yeah.
So is this a race that you think is living amongst us? Not just in our DNA?
Yeah. I think there's certain people that'll just catch your eye sometimes. In being in Sedona, and I go back to Sedona all the time because, having traveled now for 6 months, Sedona, I've not found a place like it. But you can just walk around in town and see people and they'll catch your eye and you're like, and they just look a little bit different. They have a little bit more like elongated neck, or their eyes are a little bit bigger. So there's things about them like very high cheekbones. So very, I don't know, I just want to say like beautiful looking.
Striking.
Interesting. I'll have to pay closer attention.
And I
Next
think
time you're at the Baptist.
at the grocery store, you saw a few Pleiadians this week. On that note, I think that the Pleiadians, that grouping, those beings came here to help us and remind us, humanity, to wake up in our awakenings and ascension, so that they have been on that task for decades and decades and decades. So there's just a little bit of awakening in their energy as well. So the striking visuals and you can just almost see their energy and helping us wake up to thinking in bigger, out of our boxes, into bigger pictures, perspectives is what their part of their theme and their mission is here.
You read my mind. I was just going to ask. I know that part of what sets each alien species apart is kind of their mission with us, their interaction with us, their desire to interact with us, I should say. So that's interesting. So do you think that coordinates synchronicity with the Age of Enlightenment, moving forward and moving ahead in ascension as a planet, to have them amongst us?
I think so. And I think over time, I can't remember the name of the book now, but maybe I can post it later. But a while ago, I had came across a book just randomly, and it was about the Pleiadians. And it talked about different time periods when they would come in and help awaken the planet more. And one of those times was, obviously Lemuria, Atlantis, and all of that. So very much attached to that golden age of energy where we're entering right now.
It makes sense. There's so much happening that, you can feel it in your soul. You can feel it, that things are coming after all this chaos. So it always is very comforting to me to hear that there are races amongst us who want to help us with that process, to have thousands and thousands of years of knowledge and wisdom ahead of us. We need it. So what else do you want to say about the Pleiadians? What should we know about this race? Because it's one of the races I think most talked about.
Mhm. For me, a lot of my visitations will come in dreams or through like a deep meditation that I'm doing. Because I've learned over the years who they are and their frequency, and I'm very feeling and empathic like that, so I feel the frequency. So I think for me, that's the easiest way for them to come in and communicate with me what it is that I'm supposed to be doing in this process, along with helping to awaken humanity. So I think for some people that's easier for them. So pay attention to your dreams, and if you're in a meditation state, if there's colors, sounds, all these things come in, or if you actually see this Pleiadian in front of you. And sometimes just running into them on the street would be like, oh well, they look really different to me, let me go see. And then you start searching, and a lot of times a lot of my clients will say like, it just randomly came across my phone, or a book jumped out at me, and it happens to me too. So I always laugh. But pay attention to those little synchronicities and signs.
That's funny. Like I remember laying on my friend Les's massage table. He was my massage therapist. Hi, Les, in Prescott for many, many years. And he said, you need to read this book about the Pleiadians. And I'm like, why is that? You need to read that. And that was like in the 90s, probably the early mid 90s. And I didn't know anything about these, the different alien types out there, but I did read the book because I love Les. So I read the book, and I don't know why. I really don't know why he wanted me to read it. It could have been where my life was at that time that I didn't have enough clarity to see it. I guess I need to find that book and read it again and see what it was. I really don't know, but I understand what you're saying is it can come out of left field where you least expect it. I wasn't perusing a bookstore and getting a massage, and that's the first time I heard of the Pleiadians.
There are no coincidences.
No, there are not. Life is full of synchronicities and beautiful signs and messages and guidance all the time if you are looking for it, if you open to it.
I was just telling my husband that the other day, like, do you know how many things have to happen for this to happen? Like for you to find that book, do you know how many things had to line up at that particular time? And I'm always like, it blows my mind sometimes how many things have to line up for that particular moment to happen.
I know. And we've talked about it before. We'll say it again. Just Terri-ann coming to join us was one of those, one synchronicity after another. And it's just, that's just a good example of it. So I'm wondering, like, when people come to see you and you're doing a Starseed type of session with them, what would be something about them that would make you think, they got Pleiadian in them, or more than most people?
The frequency, for me, at least for all the years, and they're each frequency with different people. Like we can say it with all of our family members and friends. If we closed our eyes and I had them sit next to you, you could recognize who they were by their frequency, how they feel, and you could guess who they were. And so there are the frequencies that come in, the different people. And like Terri-ann was saying, like sometimes there's like a little sparkle in their eyes, or maybe their eyes are a little bit more round, or there's something striking about them, even if it's they're just in a way beautiful energy pouring from them, even if they get the long beards and like the grunge look. There's something beauty coming out of them. So the frequency, and they all know something inside that they don't usually tell, like they have answers and truth, and they know about the awakening, and it could be somebody that's in very conservative spaces that never got to speak about it with anyone. So whenever someone comes in for a reading, a cosmic reading or a starseed reading, you just quickly just go boom. Oh, you're here to bring love to love and peace and joy, and you got that Pleiadian vibe. That's how I recognize them. What about you, Terri-ann?
Yeah, I'd say frequency too. Frequency tells me a lot. I mean, and that's why I like to, I don't know in the COVID age, but I like to hug or shake hands because I really like to be enveloped in that frequency. For that, that's my knowing. And so frequency is really high on the list. Another thing I would say would tip me off would be they're usually very nurturing. So not to lump them all in one category, but they're usually very nurturing, very motherly, very caring, very connected to the earth, wanting to help. So I think that's also, after frequency, that would be like a telltale, that I know this one is a Pleiadian. And then I usually like hear it.
You'll hear the word Pleiadian. Interesting. I need to do that sometime. I need to do a reading
You
like
should.
that. I want to know.
I had a session the other day with a client, and I have not heard of Polaris in a long time. It's not one of those ones like Pleiadian that comes up often or Arcturian. It was like Polaris, and I'm like, whoa, like I got all excited because I haven't heard of a Polaris starseed in a long, long time. So I was like, oh my gosh.
So does that person feel like they're all alone in the world? They have a feeling of going it alone?
Well, she said it made sense to her because somebody recently mentioned to her about being a starseed, and that's what drew her to me. And she said that she feels very alone in the world as she's waking up and understanding, and she's trying to find out everything she can, and that happens too, that you become very curious, right? I know for me, when I was awakening, I wanted to learn everything, anything and everything about everything. So I was like, oh, this, I want to do this and this and this.
You kind of do. I mean, you offer a lot of kinds of healing. It's pretty amazing. Like, whoa, girl. So what is the difference for those of us who don't know, and I'm sure there's people watching this who don't, what is the difference between having Pleiadian in your DNA, at the root of your DNA, and being a starseed connected to Pleiadians?
Well, I think we all of us have many different types of DNA that we don't know about, like it's beyond our comprehension thus far. Like, are you asking like what's
Is
the
it the
difference?
same thing? Is it the same? Like, if it is, then aren't we all starseed?
Yes.
Oh,
I think,
Yes.
Have you
I think
ever met
you
somebody
may not
who's-
know it.
Have you ever met somebody who's not a starseed?
I would say yes for me. And that would just be perhaps the mindset of they hate that stuff. I hate ascension, I hate everybody, I hate awakening, things like that. So clearly that's not very many people, but to me it feels like we all have some in our DNA, and yes, we are all starseeds. Are we all turned on, awakened starseeds? Probably not, but we're all working on it.
And maybe some
I
people
always say it's like your nationality. A lot of us come from European descent, but we're not really sure what that means, and we may not resonate with being European descent.
Here we go.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, say that again because we lost sound on you momentarily.
The last part, say it again.
So it's like if you're from, a lot of us have European descent. If you go back and do your DNA, it'll show up Eastern European or whatever, but we may not resonate with what that was because we were raised like Italian, Irish, stuff like that. So it's similar to that, I would say. They just may not know what that means.
I totally get that. Totally. And I think it could probably turn your world on its head. Like when I had DNA tested and found out I have like Korean, Japanese, all these odd like DNA in there. Those of you watching don't know, I'm 6 feet tall. So I'm like the least Oriental person that you're going to meet. Obviously I don't have dark hair, but it was just interesting. But I've heard of people having DNA testing and finding results that literally turn their world upside down. And not a horrible thing, just completely unexpected. And I can imagine it'd be the same thing, to wonder, to maybe think that you're one thing and then find out you are a starseed and you're awakening to that. That's really big. What are signs that somebody's waking up to that?
Yeah, I think we all are waking up, all of us, even if we are deemed as advanced. I think we are all still learning. And like Terri-ann said earlier, like, when she said she was first awakening, she wanted to try this and that and check out that book and check out this person and like more and more information. I still want to, like 900 years later, I still can't get over it. And so it's really fun. This awakening stuff is really fun. And to learn each step about what the origins and descent and starseed stuff is so much fun. And like we were saying, like this morning when I was driving in, thousands and thousands of butterflies, and I knew it was the Pleiadians. There were all the little yellow and white butterflies everywhere. And I thought, oh, that's suspicious. And then I thought, oh, they're talking to me in the patterns, and possibly in those ways helping me wake up to what I know about my Pleiadian parts or my Pleiadian pieces inside my consciousness. And so it was so much fun. And I think if we look around and we can all ask, you don't have to be psychic, mediums, you don't have to be healers, shamans, anything. You can just ask and they will answer you in the way that is best for you. Like for me, butterflies to remind me of the frequency of the Pleiadians and me. It was great today. And maybe like a book. Yes, that was so funny because I moved a lot of stuff. And right on top of a box, I was just opening all the boxes thinking, where does this go, And it was my mom, I think. I grew up in a bookstore, so this is not fair for everybody, but I grew up in a bookstore. So my mom gave me the Starseed Transmissions book in like 1980. And there it was on the top. And I thought, thanks, Mom from heaven. She's working with the Pleiadians today to help me, realign in that starseed energy that we all have. And I think each person can ask. And it's okay if it's not just Pleiadian or just Arcturian. But the Pleiadians I think they're the funnest, the giggly, fun, happiest, but strong.
From the way that you were describing them, Terri-ann, or I think it was you, Terri-ann, I would say there's a whole lot of crossover between the description of a Pleiadian and the description of a light worker, emanating that light and the desire to want to help and do good. So I'm thinking maybe lots of light workers are Pleiadians.
Yeah, and it's funny, I know we're not talking about other races today, but some are, the way they come in are very different. It's like spirit, right? Some will come in very stoic, very serious. Others will come in laughing and jovial. So I always find that that's interesting too, that they hold that frequency too.
It is interesting. I'm going to have to learn more about it. And then I'm going to find out I know a whole lot of people who are Pleiadian and just didn't even ever think about it.
Well, I always think of the musicians as Pleiadians. And in particular, I think I've said this before, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but Prince, to me, like we didn't have to like him. I did, but we didn't have to like him, but you couldn't kind of stop. I mean, he has a presence.
Prince?
And purple and royal. And in a way, I always thought, oh, easy Pleiadian right there. And I don't think he had an easy life. And he had connection to source and was channeling his music and channeling. And I don't know, the guy's eyes were Pleiadian for sure. But sometimes the music, as we talk about frequencies, the Pleiadians in particular bring a lot of awareness and frequency. I mean, what's more frequency than music?
As soon as you said that, you know who I thought of? Bowie.
My favorite. That is my fake boyfriend, you guys.
I had such a crush on him, tremendous crush on him. But I think like when you were saying that, like in just some of the descriptions earlier, like I think about David Bowie. So interesting. Music heals. So it makes sense that it all fits in together. What do you think is the main thing Pleiadians want for us right now?
I think they think we're in trouble and they
think
really
they're
need
right.
to help us. We really
Uh,
have been led astray as a collective, and I really think they are really working overtime to uplift humanity. And I think now more than ever, there's many people that are waking up, many light workers, many channelers are on the earth at this time. And I think they're all assisting all of that. I don't think there's any, like Roz said, any coincidences that we came together and that our energies mesh so well. There's no coincidences about that. So I think everybody else that's awakening, and I look at it as like, it's like a web, right? Every time we awaken and we do our work and we step further into the light, the next person that we meet, we help them to awaken. Even if we're not doing anything, a lot of times it's just your frequency. So, and then that web, that person goes to another person, right? So it creates this like web of intricate light that's weaving the whole planet at this time. And so I think they're all part of that.
that's so beautiful.
That's my opinion.
Right now, we need to have a lot less of competitiveness and trying to be famous and trying to be the top of the heap, and a whole lot more about what you said of just reaching out a hand and helping somebody else up, lifting people up. That's something I know we do on a daily basis, and it's important to us, and we are not alone in that. There's so many people. If the Pleiadians are helping us with that, thank you. I hope you see this, you hear this. Thank you. We appreciate it. What else do we need to know about Pleiadians? I'm curious.
I'd say right now, sorry to cut in, Melissa. I'd say right now they have this huge feminine presence. We're really going back, and I think that goes back to the golden age and the age of Aquarius, the goddesses. For me, right now, that feminine goddess energy, along with Pleiadians, who's also very feminine energy. They're all about, taking care of yourself and one another. I think that goddess, that feminine energy is very present right now. A lot of people are coming into learning what they can about that type of energy, stepping back. My clients laugh sometimes because when they're push, and nothing's happening and I'm so stressed out, right? And I tell them, well, take a step back. What? I can't take a step back. It actually helps them to surrender to that, right? We're going more with that feminine energy now, the flow. So we're going to take a step back. And as scary as it is, because we've been taught to push, go forward. If you're not working hard, you're not getting anything, right? So getting into that more feminine energy, I think that's what the Pleiadians are also about.
That's so interesting with all the activism going on for women and certain factions of men pushing back so hard against that right now.
I agree. I've seen that, and the harmony and balance and unity brought in through the divine feminine energy that's balanced. So I think that's pretty cool as well. I agree with you. I agree, Terri-ann.
And you'll see it shows up in your own life too. I mean, the goddesses have really been very present. As much as I say when I'm doing a deep meditation about, different types of energies that'll come in. And of course, my son will always come in. But the goddess energy now, I think, has really amped up. And like Ivory said, with that pushback coming from the patriarchy, oh my gosh, we're like really having to, stand forward now.
And no longer judge each other. Like, I think, like, so what if someone likes different kind of pizza than you do, or they like the different car, or they're taller or shorter? So what? To see the humanity, the balance, and that goddess energy in us, I think is very Pleiadian, and that connection that we can see, and no longer go, you're broken and I'm not. That's that oligarchy falling away. So I think the Pleiadians are the hand of God in a way, shining a light on some of those gross, ugly pieces that are to be crumbling away and cleared from us. And I think we're doing a really great job, because that goddess energy is always the unconditional love. Even if we don't care for somebody, you can love them from afar.
And I
I
don't
think
mean,
the Pleiadians are helping us.
I
Sorry.
don't mean to put you on the spot, but do either one of you know how old the Pleiadian civilization is approximately?
I
To
think
the
they're one of the
beginning.
oldest.
I didn't hear that.
To the
How old?
beginning of time is what I said. Like, there are some of the creator gods and goddesses is what I believe.
Okay. So I'm thinking, as you guys are talking, you can never shut down the psychic in you. I'm getting that they've been through everything we've gone through and more, cycle after cycle, and they know how to get through this and how to calm this down and come to a place of peace and tranquility for our planets where we can live in harmony. It's growing pains, isn't it?
Yes, rebirth. I equate it a lot to birth. We've gone through a death and a rebirthing now, and many of us are feeling that. Man, I can't even tell you. I've been going through this huge transformation as I'm coming back to Sedona, and this birthing process is painful. So a lot of people are going through this rebirthing, if you will, and the Pleiadians, they know that they're helping us all, they're guiding us, and they're supporting us through this, because I think, as you said, they've gone through similar things, and because they're one of the oldest, if not the oldest, that they've experienced this all. So we know, and there's so much we don't know.
Oh my gosh. It's hard to even fathom a race that ancient, what we must seem like to them. We are infants. We are infants. And I think that's why having this kind of show is really good, because maybe it'll give people some perspective to be kinder to themselves and everyone else, that we are just infants on the scale of things, just trying to figure things out. And we're not good at it yet, as a whole.
And we want to run before we walk, right?
Yes.
All of us, yeah. And I think that's before we know how to, like, we can't have car keys yet because we are infants, and we want to run across the living room and we bump our head on the coffee table and land on our buns. And I think that is where all of us are at. And I think we can sort of look at the Pleiadians like our parents, kind, loving, good teachers, great teachers are the Pleiadians. And so they're saying, honey, you don't run when there's glass tables in front of you, and the whole big picture of awakening and ascension and our consciousness uplifting. So they're kind of going, we know you want to be like your brothers and go to college right now, but you are 3 and you need to get in your chair, and I'll bring you your Cheerios, because that's about where we're at. And so we can look at the Pleiadians as just the best, kind, loving, benevolent teachers that are going to help us learn how to write the script of our lives and our world, our consciousness in the next decades.
I hope they're sending messages to our planet of stop worrying about colonizing Mars and traveling to other planets and fix the one you live on. Clean up the environment. Take care of the violence, the discord, and then we'll worry about branching out. Frankly, we don't want you to leave your planet right now. You're like a pestilence going out into the universe right now. Kind of.
I'm pretty sure all of the races think that about us.
I think they do. Not all of us, but as a whole. Yeah.
Yeah. Humanity is a
So
little broken.
How come there's some people who see this, like they can see this, and it's like they're thinking 1,000 years ahead of the planet? Why is that? Is that something to do with Pleiadians?
What if they're awakened Pleiadian starseeds, and that they came here in human form to just hold, like you said, Ivory, earlier, you said you don't have to be doing something and being more, better at healing than so-and-so down the street. The truth is we hold it wherever we're at. If we, I don't know, if we don't take a shower that day and we got our hair up in a big knot, we're still holding that truth, that energy wherever we are at. And it does make a difference. And so I do think some of us who hopefully are a little bit advanced in thinking can see the bigger picture in advance, are playing the roles of some of the Pleiadian parents in body form, in human form.
It's interesting, isn't it? Makes a lot of sense. And it's kind of frustrating when you can step back and see the craziness. And I'm just putting it out there. Pleiadians, feel perfectly free to come visit me. I'd love to talk to you. I'm totally on board with your mission. Put the Sedona Soul Sisters to work with your mission. We are here.
out of all the beings in the universe, which, it's not like I know them all. I would, they'd be at the top of the list, and everybody is safe to ask for that as well. So, all the people that look at us and go, why did they know more? Why did they get to have that job? Why did they know more? We are learning every single day. It was sometimes named Melissa does not know more. And I learn every day. But the Pleiadians, you can ask them, and they will call you in their own ways, like with the butterflies or with the music, or, turn on your music in the stereo in the car today and see what Pleiadian messages you got coming in, maybe.
I'm going to do that at the drive into the office. I'm going to see what they have to say. The reason that Melissa and Terri-ann are able to tune into these Starseed, to the different alien types, is because it's part of their mission in this lifetime. It's a gift that they were given. It's a gift from God. Here, you're going to be able to do this so you can accomplish this. But as far as why all of us are doing this for a living, how do we get to do it and you don't? At some point you take a leap of faith. You step out on that limb. You're hearing the guidance from your angels or from your own intuition that you need to do it, and then you have to push past the fear and just go for it. You go for it. I don't think there's a perfect
you go
time.
kicking and screaming, right?
Yeah, you guys know, like, I didn't want to leave the field of mental health. I did not want. My angels are like, you have to do this full time, and I'm glad they did. But we're not special and you're not. That's not it at all. You're special too. And everybody has people that they're going to be able to reach that other people can't, that we can't. So, don't worry about it. It's not about a competition. It's about putting yourself out there. And so if you have a connection to Starseed, if you have a connection to the different alien species, hopefully it's given you some ideas of what you can do with that to help mankind.
Yeah.
And I think you'll see more. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Terri-ann.
I was going to say, I think you'll see more people becoming aware of that, because from what I've been shown is there's these pockets on Earth now where this galactic energy is intensifying, down in Florida, Arizona, other places. This energy, this galactic energy is anchoring in and intensifying. So what I've been shown is that now people will start to maybe resonate a little easier than maybe before, where they would have said, oh, hell no. They'll maybe resonate a little easier because that's like an adjustment period for them.
I agree.
It can be scary, right? When you're first putting yourself out there, especially talking about alien species and Starseed. I think there's a lot of resistance to that.
Well, my very first, just real quick basics about me, my very first remembrance in this body, in this world, was pretty early. And I was very small child, and I would tell my parents I have to go to bed and talk to the lady. So they were like, that's weird. We don't know any little children that want to go to bed by themselves. They always fight it, right? And I think I've also told this one, but it's an epic piece of who I am. I literally thought I was going to bed every couple months. I mean, I was little, so I don't quite know if it was every couple weeks or months or whatever it was. But because I thought I was talking to Glinda the Good Witch.
Yeah.
Really?
Nice.
Because she was floaty and sparkly and she was this gorgeous, stunning and colorful. And come to find out, my concept, I went to church. I grew up in the Midwest and have a background in God for sure. And that never left. But I didn't have a concept of what angels meant, like what they are supposed to look like. And so it turns out I was a Pleiadian angelic being. And so she shows up still sometimes. She has red hair, and she's just was floating off the ground and sparkly. And so that, really the only thing you can, as a child, and maybe since now that I'm 50, can really identify with is, wow, that's sort of like Glinda the Good Witch, and she was floaty and beautiful and sweet, and she would always tell me about God, and she always told me about the coming ascension. So this is 50 years ago, and I'm a little child, and she told me about the awakenings and this very like science meeting spirit. And so for a long time, like Terri-ann and I were awakened in particular ways for our Starseed missions, but I didn't understand that people called them aliens. In my 30s, I was like, why are you calling them aliens? That's weird. But I didn't understand that they were very weird to others. And they're just celestial beings. Think about it. They hail from the heavens. And so some of them are angelic beings of God, and the Pleiadians are a race of the divine. And we all have a little in us. And you're right, Ivory, nobody is better than others. I mean, who wants to have that story? My life began with talking to Glinda the Good Witch and stuff. That it was hard. And there's been a few times, and especially living in the Midwest and for, being targeted and things like that, persecuted and things for just being myself. I wanted to run. I still want to sometimes. I don't want to do this. And so I don't think that any of us think we're better than each other. It's just some of us have a slight little awakening in different ways. And the people down the street that maybe aren't as loud as I am might also have beautiful pieces that they just haven't got to express in the same way. Like we are all equal. We are all really helping this world, and we are all connected to the divine in whatever way is best. And today it's the Pleiadian way.
We're all teachers, we're all students. It comes down to that. Terri-ann, is there a last thing you'd like to say today on this topic?
I had something and it just went out of my head.
Sorry, I took over for a moment.
She was focused on what you were saying.
I was deeply entrenched in that. And she makes such a great point, Melissa.
Well, if you think of it, did you think of it?
No.
If not, post it on
it was
Facebook.
like right there.
Put it on the Facebook show page so people know what you're
okay.
saying. And we're going to wrap this up.
Oh, I know now. I know.
Oh, go for it.
That I think there's a lot of people now with the starseed energy in them. And I believe it's that piece of DNA. It's activated by those higher frequency starseeds. And so I think that's why we're all awakening to this, at whatever point in time you awaken to it. Melissa was young, I was old. It doesn't really matter when, but I believe that piece, that frequency that they're holding is, awakening something within us. And so I think a lot more people are resonating with that fact right now. That's what it was.
Thank you. I'm glad you thought of it. If you have questions about today's show, you can email them to us. The email address is in the show description if you're watching this on a podcast listening or watching on our YouTube channel. You've been watching the Sedona Soul Sisters show. If you'd like more information about us or our services, please visit our website, sedonasoulsisters.com. Tune in next Friday. Our topic is Ley Lines. Miss Roz Reynolds is our resident expert on ley lines. I only have experiences. We'll be talking about that. And in the meantime, we hope you have an enlightening week.